Our moderator for this portion is Alice Carlson, who will tell you about how it's structured and introduce our panel. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. I am Alice Carlson. I am joined up here by Sheriff Gabe Fabrizio, District Attorney Paul Frasier. Mike, please. Sorry, I'm not used to using a mic. I'll try not to project too much. Please tell me if I'm projecting too much. Podcaster and activist Rob Taylor rounds out our group. You will notice that Commissioner John Sweet is also up here. We have invited him for question answering section, but he will not make the initial presentation. Before we hear from the panelists, our voter service chair, Abigail Bach, will read the ballot measure report that we have written, that the League of Women Voters has written on measure 6-213, so that we are all operating from a common base of knowledge.
There are paper copies of this at the back if anybody wants to take one with them afterwards. This is a neutral ballot report that was prepared by a committee of the League of Women Voters. The ballot measure 6-213 is a 5-year local option levy to fund public safety operations. That's its official title. And the official question is, shall Coos County fund public safety with a 5-year operating levy of 98 cents per $1,000 of assessed property value beginning fiscal year 2024 to 2025? This measure may cause property taxes to increase more than 3%. It was referred to the ballot by the Coos County Commissioners. Financial impact of this levy. A levy of 98 cents per $1,000 of assessed property value would amount to $196 per year for someone with a $200,000 assessed value home, or $294 per year for a $300,000 home. And that's assessed value, not market value. Estimated revenue for the first year of the levy, 2024-25, is $5,733,000, $463.93. Sorry, that's such a long number. I got all tangled up. The new levy would begin July 1, 2024, and automatically expire on June 30, 2029, unless reapproved by Coos County voters. Then our standard report has probable results of a yes vote and probable results of a no vote. Probable result of a yes vote, levy proceeds would be placed in a restricted revenue fund specifically earmarked for jail and prosecution services. And to ensure accountability, the fund would be externally audited with results made available to the public. Levy revenue would be used to provide staff for another housing unit that would increase Coos County jail ability by 50% to 147 adults in custody and an additional 49 beds over its current 98 bed capacity, greatly reducing the need for releases due to overcrowding. The levy would also fund prosecutors in the district attorney's office to increase the number of criminal cases the office can prosecute, enabling the office to handle the approximately 1,400 backlogged cases and other cases turned away due to staffing limitations. Probable results of a no vote. The levy would not be added to the county tax rolls, so would not be available to fund services in the Sheriff's Department and District Attorney's Office. Then we give a little background on how we got to this point, why the commissioners decided to put this measure on the ballot. Coos County has the second lowest tax rate in Oregon, and it faces a budget shortfall next year of $4 million. Last year, the county raised $6 million in property taxes and $3 million in non-property tax revenue, such as the Bandon Dunes voluntary room tax. The county's total budget is $140 million. The county has been able to sustain operations by cutting some non-mandated positions, with total employees now at 350, down from 550 a few years ago. It has also created revenue-generating operations. For example, solid waste is now self-sustaining through fees. Riley Ranch RV Park was expanded to generate between $200,000 and $300,000 a year in income. The Parks Department was made self-sustaining, and county forest lands were increased from 15,000 to 17,000 acres and harvested on a sustainable yield basis to generate about $3 million annually to fund other county services. State and federal funds, some of which will not be renewed, have been used to plug budget gaps, but are restricted to certain county operations, such as the health department and roads. Despite these efforts, the county still has a large shortfall. In the Sheriff's Department, current jail capacity means that any charged people brought in are released unless they displace a currently housed person charged with a lesser crime. This is called forced release, dictated by state standards, which require a certain ratio of staff to inmates. The Sheriff's Department budget is $16.7 million for fiscal year 23-24. In addition to just over $13 million in general fund dollars, the Sheriff's Department received temporary grant money last year and a one-time allotment of $3.47 million in county reserve money to fund current operations. But the office needs a new revenue stream in order to add staff positions and maintain competitive salaries in order to fill positions and retain staff once hired. With current staffing, the district attorney's office has been unable to handle all cases referred to it, resulting in a backlog of approximately 1,400 cases. Attorneys in the district attorney's office have been paid less than prosecutors in other counties, and the office lacks 2 positions. Salaries have been increased, but that is not sustainable without new revenue. Reduced staff can't bring prosecutions in any but the most serious cases. Coos County has the highest per capita homicide rate in Oregon, and 2 homicide cases are currently being handled by the office. Trial budgets are underfunded, especially with the higher expense of homicide cases. So then we move to what the proposal is. The levy would enable the district attorney's office to add 2 positions and maintain competitive salaries that will attract applicants to current and new positions. The district attorney estimates that the levy would enable the office to catch up with the backlog within a year and would also help to balance trial budgets for costs such as witness fees, citing an estimated cost of up to $50,000 for pending homicide cases, but with a current total trial budget of only $30,000. By increasing the number of prosecuted cases, the levy would increase the ability of Coos County to enroll offenders in treatment and rehabilitation services through community corrections. The state of Oregon funds Coos County community corrections based on the number of parole and probation clients they have. Any increase in the number of sentenced offenders will result in additional funding for that department in Coos County. This levy would also add 7 more jail staff positions to the Sheriff's Department and maintain competitive salaries to fund recruitment, hiring, and retention of jail personnel so as to increase jail capacity by 50%. This means violent criminals will be housed without having to release those incarcerated for lesser crimes. There will be no need to release inmates who have been sentenced to serve time in the county jail. Note that not all defendants are jailed, however. Under Senate Bill 48, passed by the Oregon legislature in 2021, a judge decides whether to release a defendant or to require security, i.e. bond, in case that defendant does not appear in court as required. This does not apply to those charged with murder or treason, or with any violent felony who will be jailed. In addition to staff, the levy would also fund overhead costs for the jail, such as utilities, meals, medical transports, and other services for a larger number of inmates. The expenditures covered by this levy would free up some funds from the county's general fund and reduce the county's overall budget shortfall.
We do have copies of that at the back, right? Yes. Okay. For those of you who didn't memorize it. All right, what we're going to do now is that we are going to have initial arguments for and against. And the format will be that Sheriff Fabrizio and DA Frasier will have 5 minutes each to give you arguments in favor. And Rob Taylor will have 10 minutes to offer arguments against the measure. After that time, we will have 2 minutes each for rebuttals, depending on what the speakers want to rebut. And then after that, we will have questions. So, Sheriff Fabrizio, I guess you get to be first. You have 5 minutes to say why we should support this levy.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you for reading that as well. That actually I crossed out quite a bit, which is great because 5 minutes isn't a lot of time. So I'll start off. She already mentioned, of course, how we got here, and really kind of the answer to that is inflation over time. And please excuse me if I insult anybody's intelligence. I'm not trying to, but the way property escalation works for value in the county is a flat rate of 3% per year. Unfortunately, inflation outpaces that pretty much astronomically, especially through the magic of compounding interest. Typically, it's about 4.5 to 5% per year. And looking back over the years as we go on, it kind of got to where we're at in this mess now. Last year, the commissioners had to make up a huge shortfall, about $3 million, I believe, through ARP funds, COVID money. And that was a one-time shot. It's gone. I think there's a little bit left right now, but not much. Certainly not enough. $4 million. Thank you. Certainly not enough to help with this upcoming shortfall we have. So when we were looking at that, we explored a lot of options on what we could do going forward. And rather than just try to fix that problem again, put a Band-Aid on it, we looked at what can we do that would further benefit the county? How can we help more? And as we all know, I think almost everybody has experiences with it, crime is bad. It's really bad right now. We are outnumbered and outgunned. And the two choke points that we have are the jail. We have this catch and release thing. It hasn't been open 98 beds in years. And I'm happy to say, I don't know if you saw the post today, but we will be open to 98 beds on 7 at 8 o'clock in the morning. Finally there. Thank God. Nice. Yeah, super excited about it. Incredibly excited. But the jail and the DA's office. And I don't want to steal Paul's thunder, but those two areas right there will help a lot with the backlog and help a lot with holding people accountable. That's what we're looking at. So instead of going with just fixing what we got and going status quo, faculty further benefits, take a step forward to help people. I do want to explain further the forced release thing. When we have limited space, when we have more people causing problems than we have space to hold, then we have to make a decision. And there are state guidelines for it, but we have to make a decision on who to release if we want to keep somebody that comes into jail. The example I gave, there was a gentleman that was recklessly burning all the time, over and over and over again. He was eventually could hurt somebody. It wasn't arson, he wasn't burning buildings, but it was still pretty bad. Decided to keep him, get him off the street, but I had to release somebody who was failure to register as a sex offender. It's kind of decisions you have to make. We're going from 49 to 98. That's great. That won't happen as often. The more serious crimes will be kept more because they'll be more space. With the levy, we're looking at 147. So opening up a whole nother pot. We're going to double here on the 27th at 8 o'clock. If the levy passes with the help of the citizens, we can go again another pod, another addition of what we have right now. She covered quite a bit. We do need to hire 7 more deputies to make that happen. Over the last 15 months, we've hired 16 deputies. 12 of those have gone to jail, 4 on the road. So I don't know how quick that'll be, but if that's any indicator, hopefully it'll happen pretty soon. Have talked to a lot of people about this, some of the concerns that have been raised. It is a 5-year levy, so at the end of the 5 years, it'll sunset, it'll go away automatically. That's by law. We can't extend it anymore. So what we're looking at, what do we do then? We can either go for another levy. Some counties do exist on levies. Or if it's working, if it's something that people like, we can look at a district, public safety district. That's enduring. Josephine County just passed one for 99 cents. That'll be around forever. A little more complicated. It's fine. I have paperwork on my desk. We can get into that. Rehab or treatment. This doesn't specifically address rehab or treatment, but there are a lot of mechanisms that this will help with immensely. It won't, I'll get into that in a second. This won't affect patrol. This doesn't provide any more deputies on the road. Obviously, it will affect the jail. There are some treatment services in the jail. We do allow MRT, Narcotics Anonymous, church groups, we'll do it on them. But that's pretty limited. It's not an inpatient rehab facility. 30 seconds, EA. Something that will affect a lot is parole probation. Give them more clients. More clients means more money. They have the treatment programs. I wish I could talk about 4002. That's a recriminalization of drugs. It needs a jail to be effective, but that does offer inherently rehab. And if it fails, she mentioned that. If it fails, it's going to be pretty unfortunate. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Mr. Frasier.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, just keep it close.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Well, first off, I need to correct a couple of things that were part of the initial statement that was read. I don't have 2 murder cases pending. I've got 5. And I've got 2 murder 1 cases and 3 murder 2 cases. And then on top of that, I have a manslaughter in the first degree case pending. And then I have 3 criminally negligent homicide cases pending of that. And then I have another potential manslaughter case that's sitting on my desk. I'm waiting for some crime lab reports before I make up my mind about where we're going to go with that one. So we have considerably a high homicide rate in our county for whatever reason. And what happens with those cases, just so you're aware, they're not like a simple shoplift or trespass case that take hours and hours and hours of time on my part to work with. And of course, I'm supposed to be retiring at the end of the year, but I've already been told that the county's going to bring me back for a few months, with this backlog. But the other thing is for the last couple of years, I have been down. I'm budgeted for 7 deputy DAs. I've been down to 4, and part of the problem has been we had low wages. And nobody really wanted to move out to the coast for whatever reason. I went to the commissioners and I said, look, we've got to do something. We've got to change this. We've got to we need to become competitive with other DA offices that are looking for deputy DAs. And they agreed with that. And I'm pleased to report that I hired a new deputy DA started February 1. And I have another one that's supposed to start June 3rd. So I'll actually only be down 1. But even then, with 6 deputy DAs and me, that's total 7. Last year, we had 8,895 reports, according to our case management. And you can't handle those things with 7 people. I need help. That's all there is to it. I need help. And so getting the extra 2, bringing us up to 9, it's going to take a bit to get there. But once we get there, we can get rid of this backlog I have. There's about 14 cases that we just haven't had a chance to even look at. Unfortunately. We're trying to do the best we can with what we have, but there's a limit. If you reach a limit of what is you're physically and mentally able to do. I need help. I've gone to the commissioners, I've been the DA since 2008. Each year in the budget hearings, I have indicated to the commissioners that, you know, as long as we remain kind of steady, we're hanging on by our fingernails at my office. And I knew the condition of the budget was such that if I went in and asked for more help, I wouldn't get it. But now we've reached the point where we have to do something, because what will happen is, unfortunately, if we have reductions with the shortfall that the county is faced with, I'm probably not going to be able to fill one or two of those deputies. I may have to lay somebody off, and not even try to fill the empty position I have. My people every day are, you know, we're looking at stuff, we're triaging stuff. Okay, what do I need to work on today? Do I need to look at this intake about a person who's in something on their significant other, or do I look at a criminal trespass case? And those are the type of decisions they're making. I also need jail space. I did have a drug treatment court. Measure 110 killed it. The changes that have been made to 110, it's my intent to reinstate our drug program.
Podcaster and activist Rob Taylor will have 10 minutes to give arguments against.
I'm one of those people who believes that we already pay too much taxes. We pay too much taxes on a federal level. We pay too much taxes on a state level. And I think that when the county is telling you that we are the second lowest taxed for the county district itself, county, statewide, they're absolutely right. But what they're not telling you is that we have the fourth lowest medium income for housing. We don't make a lot of money out here. So per house, we don't have people who have the extra funding to pay for this. And what they're selling you is fear. They're selling you fear. And I can tell you right now, they're selling you fear by telling you that if this levy doesn't pass, it's going to get worse. And they're right. But I'm telling you this as well, that if this levy even does pass, it's still going to get worse. It doesn't matter either way. And it's probably, and I know this is because the state has sabotaged our justice system. There is an agenda where now the laws are on the side of the criminal and no longer on the side of the property owner. And it's really affected the DA's ability to prosecute people. It's affected the sheriff's ability to lock people up. And so you can give them as much money as you want, but if you have a system that has been sabotaged, and I know that it's been sabotaged because I've talked to people in the sheriff's office who'll tell you the system's broken. I've talked to people in the DA's office who says the system is broken, but it's not broken. It's been sabotaged. This has been done to us on purpose. Those levies, tax levy is being sold to you at 5.7 million is the numbers I got from the county. That means 3.2 million is going to go to law enforcement. 2.5 million is going to the general fund. This could be just as well titled as a general fund tax levy as it is called a safety levy. And so over these 5 years, as long as we keep paying this, they're going to become dependent on it. We are going to have to make these cuts now. If we don't make these cuts now, we're going to be dependent on tax increases going on for who knows how long. And it's going to have to be increased if they don't learn to get this spending under control. When they were having the arguments over what to do with the American Rescue Plan money, I watched a lot of people get a lot of raises, and I watched a lot of this money being spent on things that they shouldn't have spent on. And now this is coming to the point where they should have saved some of that money. I would like to go over the performance of the Board of Commissioners. The Board of Commissioners, when they got into session last year, the first thing they started talking about was instilling prayer into the meetings or taking away public comment, which I'm against praying at meetings, and I think we should always be allowed to have public comment. But they wasted time on this when they should have been focusing on the real problems. They did nothing to eliminate the UR debt, or at least to try to get it under control. Urban renewal is nothing but corporate welfare, taking your hard-earned tax money and giving it to businesses. They didn't even take any step to try to close down their own urban renewal agency. And then they did a couple of things that I thought was the antithesis of what good governance is about. One of the things that they did is that they shut off forest land to motorized vehicles. There's a lot of people who are handicapped. They would like to be able to go up into those forest lands, and now they can't because there's gates on them. And why are there gates on them? Because people were up there littering, and the sheriff didn't have enough deputies to go and patrol over this area. The next thing that they did was started enforcing easement rules. They started placing easement rules where before it was only a 7-foot setback. Now they're telling farmers they have to have 30, 40, 50, 60-foot setbacks. And the county is telling these farmers and these ranchers that this is not a land grab. I can tell you right now, if you got a field and you go from 7 feet back from the road to 40 feet back from the road, that's a land grab. And I totally believe that. I don't care what the commissioners are telling you. Then here's the worst thing they did. Under HB 4123, which was passed by the legislature, it told the counties if you wanted money for your homeless problem, and I don't believe it's a homeless problem. I believe we have drug dereliction problems and a criminal problem. Lawlessness is the problem. But they created HB 4123 in the legislature and basically bribed the counties with their own tax money, telling them that they had to create a homeless advisory board. Now that homeless advisory board is taking a lot of the funding that they're giving, and they're building projects that are actually taking property off of the tax roll. I'd like to see in 5 years how much property has been taken off the tax roll, and this is the money that should be going to the county. So they're working to the antithesis of actually helping people get housing, because that's going to drive up the cost of housing, because all of the services that are provided by the fire, the police, all the other utilities, all of those are dependent on tax dollars. And if the people who are living in these new projects are not paying taxes, who do you think has to make up the difference? Well, all of us in this room has to make up this difference. And that, once again, is going to put a setback on people who are living on fixed incomes. And let's face it, folks, look at the people in this room. We're not young folks anymore. We're not young spring chickens. Most of the Bandon, I like to say, Bandon is essentially a retirement home. These people are living on nothing but a fixed income from their social securities. And so we cannot keep piling and piling on all these taxes, because they are going to lose the ability to stay in their houses. Let's talk about the performance of the Sheriff's Department. He just finally said we're going to be getting the 98 beds open, which is great. We've been asking for that for a long time, but it took 1.5 years. When the new leadership took over the Sheriff's Department, 12 deputies quit. Some of them quit because they retired, but some of them quit because they didn't like the new leadership. I don't know why that is, but that set back the Sheriff's Department, and the sheriff had to go and hire new people. All of this is contributing to a bigger and bigger debt. But then you have the problem of what I call the sabotage justice system. The sabotage justice system has now taken away the ability a lot of time for the sheriff to hold these people. We have a cashless bail system where many people are just let go. Once they're let go, they're going back into society to do whatever they want to do. We've got a governor, our last governor, who closed down dozens of prisons and mental facilities, not dozens in both, but dozens together. And these mental facilities housed people where now we have to deal with them on the street. We had Shutter Creek. Shutter Creek just closed down. We had almost 2,000 prisoners in Shutter Creek. Where do you think all those prisoners went? Well, a good portion of them came to your cities, to your county. And now we're dealing with those people because why? Not the fault of the sheriff, not the fault of the DA, but the fault of the legislature and the governor, who has decided to create a system where the criminal is given privilege and the property owner isn't. And now we've got problems with people who who are property owners who have to defend their own property. They go out there and they defend their property from these criminals. And a lot of times I've seen the sheriff show up and I've heard this because I've talked to many people who've been through this. I just went through a trial with a gentleman who was a property owner. He defended himself from a known criminal. And we sat there with two deputies for an entire day, two deputies that should have been on patrol, but they weren't on patrol. Why were they not on patrol? Because we were sitting there in the courtroom waiting to give our testimony. Why? Because the sheriff's deputies, they took the word of the criminal over the property owner. They have a discretionary authority and they can stop doing this. They can stop taking those criminals' word for what they're saying. And this is not something that's just happened, an anecdotal story. I've seen this happen many different times. Many of you know Rob from Base and Tackle. He was actually assaulted in his own store. He defended himself, and when the sheriff's deputy shows up, what do they ask the criminal who he defended himself against? Do you want to press charges? That's not what we should be asking. If we want a justice system that works, we got to have a justice system that actually protects people and allows them to defend themselves and defend their property. If we're not going to allow them to do that, then what we have is a system, once again, that's been sabotaged. The public defender office has been completely riddled with people who can't really do public defender. They're the worst of the worst attorneys. And why are they the worst of the worst? Because the governor and the government has taken money from that department. And because they've taken money from that department, you can't find public defenders to defend these criminals. And after a certain amount of time, they have to let these people go because there's no one there to defend them, because they have rights and they have to have the right to be tried and represented by an attorney. And I don't place too much blame on these two gentlemen. Like I said, the system is broken from the top down, not from the bottom up. And we're not going to be able to fix it no matter how much money we throw at it until the legislature and the governor pulls its mind together and starts acting wisely.
Gentlemen, did you hear anything that you would like to rebut? We have 2 minutes you can go first, yes?
Hey, Rob, thank you. I actually agree with a lot of the stuff said, not all of it, some of it though. About the sabotage part, there are a lot of laws that make it really, really difficult to do our job. I agree with that. There is some legislation, but that is a separate issue, and it's something that we have to fight while we continue to fight crime here. Measure 110/4002 is a good example. That was changed, and I was talking to one of the senators that sat in the legislative process for this, because they saw the writing on the wall. It looked like it may actually go to a complete repeal. So this bipartisan bill 4002-33 was passed as a stopgap so that it wouldn't completely change. But that law was changed. It actually changed the box at the top. For the recriminalization of drugs to an unclassified misdemeanor, not perfect, better than it was, happened. That's what needs to happen at the top. So it may sound like a cop-out, but if you want change up there, you got to vote for that change here. But that doesn't mean we can stop fighting here. We still have to fight for our community. We still have to be able to incarcerate people. We still have to be able to prosecute people as it happens here to the extent we can now, while we're also trying to change. For my part, that's OSSA, that's the Oregon State Sheriff's Association. They hand in that change 4002 and other such as Senate Bill 48, the cashless bail legislation he's talking about.
Did you have something you would like to rebut?
I need help. I can't do the job that I was elected to do with the staffing I have. That's all there is to it. And, I don't particularly care what the commissioners do. That's their business. They're the elected commissioners. I'm concerned about prosecuting criminals in our county. And I can't do it with the staffing levels I have. The state isn't going to help us. The federal government is not going to help us. If we want cases prosecuted, frankly, I need more people. And I can't do it with what I have. I can't do it with what I have. And so that's why I'm coming to you tonight. I need help.
Commissioner Sweet, did you hear anything you think needed to be rebutted?
Quite a bit.
2 minutes.
Well, first, we can't keep blaming everything on the state and federal government. At some time, we have to become responsible for their correcting, taking care of our own problems. We've done really, really well running this county with taxes that are with county taxes that are much, much lower than the average county in the state charges. Somewhere around 1/3 as much as the others charge. $2 million of this is not going to go to the general fund. It's right here in black and white that it will be dedicated to two things. The prosecutor, the DA's office, and extra space in the jail. We need extra capacity there entirely. ARP money. This is American Rescue Plan money we received during the pandemic. We tried very hard not to spend that on salaries. It was one of the things we did. We were able to shut down a whole building in North Bend, the old Kaiser Hospital that was about ready to fall down. The elevator didn't work, heating system didn't work, you couldn't drink the water. We moved that over, that courthouse that was in there, over courtroom, over to Coquille. So all our courtrooms are in one place. That's what we use that type of thing is what we use American Rescue Plan money for. Shutting down the forest roads, yes, that we didn't like doing that. We liked having the roads open, so they were open to the public. But people were cutting down trees, they were setting fires, they were stealing things, they were desecrating the forest with garbage. We had to put an end to it. 30, 40, 50, 60 foot setbacks on the county roads. That's ridiculous. We never did that's the entire width of the roads. That's not the setback we went along each side of the road. I don't know where he got that. And if anyone questions this sheriff's leadership, he doesn't know what's going on. We have a fantastic sheriff. He's got a fantastic crew, and they're doing a fantastic job for you. They need help. Thank you.
And you have 2 more minutes for rebuttal.
Yes. Measure 110, yes, they did, what they called, they recriminalized drugs, but the fact is that the penalty is almost nothing. It's not going to do anything to stop people from using drugs. It wasn't stopping them from using drugs when it was illegal before. And the fact is that a lot of the money that they took from Measure 110 is going to go into enabling process. They're going to literally be giving them crack pipes. They're going to be giving them all the services that they need to continue to use their drugs. And I don't want to see that funded. And if they were serious about doing something with a safety levy, instead of wasting their time in the commissioner's office, they should have done one thing. They should have created have the sheriff, the DA, create its own taxing district. I could almost get behind a taxing district like that where I knew that the money was all going to go to the sheriff's department. We have asked them that. We asked them that, and we asked them to create it over a year ago, and they've done nothing, nada, to do a thing about that. And that money would go directly to the sheriff, and it wouldn't have been frittered away in the commissioner's position. A second thing that we asked them to do is try something other than taxes, because all the tax levies have been failing over the last several years. We told them to try crowdfunding. We told them to go get a GoFundMe page. Try anything. I mean, even one of the commissioners had a good idea to ask taxpayers to voluntarily give some money. But not everyone has that money to give. They're living on a fixed income. And I don't think we should be asking people to give up more money, because that money can actually help them stay safer in their home. And I don't think that giving the sheriff and the county more money is going to keep people any safer.
Sorry, I've been bad. I have some questions that have come from the audience. If you have specific questions for just whoever wants to answer them, or for a specific person up here, please write them down, and Joanne will come and get them. Thank you. The first question that has come from the audience is for Commissioner Sweet. What is the plan to make sure that in 5 years, when the levy expires, that the general fund can reabsorb the jail operations and prosecutorial services?
We would like nothing, whoops, we would like nothing more than to be able to enact something beyond 5 years. The Constitution of the state does not let us add on to the base rate, that they call the permanent rate, for periods longer than 5 years. There's certain wisdom to that, that if a governmental institution raises their taxes by having an accessible vote for a tax levy, and they don't use that money correctly, then they don't get it again. That keeps us on our toes. So I don't see pending some huge improvement in our local economy, and a huge new enterprise coming here, that we would be able to take this out of our general fund in 5 years. We probably have to go back and ask for another replacement. Even with this new 90-cent, 98-cent levy, if it passes, I'd like to say when it passes, our tax rate will still be under 60% of the average county's tax rate in the state. Currently, we're about a third. So yes, taxes, there's a lot of taxes, but we've done a good job at the county in holding the line on taxes.
Okay, next question. You kind of both alluded to this, but specifically, will there be layoffs in the DA's office or sheriff's department if the measure doesn't pass?
Well, for the district attorney's office, I was asked to prepare a 15% budget with a 15% cut. And it would, I was able to come up with a budget exactly a 14% cut. I would have to cut one deputy DA position. If it comes back that I need to go to the full 15%, I'll have to cut another one.
Sorry, excuse me. Similarly, that we were asked to plan for about the same 15%. Unfortunately, I had about 10 times those numbers based on that. However, the final planning hasn't been done. I don't know what the final number would look like, but yes, there would be quite a bit of layoffs. I think we would probably lose one whole patrol ship and probably back down to 49 beds. About the best services we could still provide.
Okay, next question. What is the impact on Coos County Community Corrections probation services if the measure doesn't pass? Is there any impact?
Community corrections is paid for by the state almost entirely, but their funding is based on how many people they're supervising. So if there's more people on supervision, more funding they get. If there's less people on supervision, there's less funding there. And that's part of the problem we have, because if my office, if we're not able to prosecute these people and get them on probation, then they don't get over to parole and probation. We have all these services that we can offer them through parole and probation, hopefully for rehabilitation purposes. But if I have to cut one or two lawyers and we're not going to get to that backlog, it's going to have a ripple effect. And it will have an effect on community corrections in the long term.
Okay, this is for you, Mr. Taylor. You have described the sabotage justice system and increase in crime pretty well, laying at the feet of the state. But what do you propose to fix the problem? I didn't hear that.
There is no fix. We voted wrong. The state voted wrong for the wrong people, and now we got the wrong people representing us. Until they get better people in there who are going to change the law and correct the wrongs that have been committed, that's the problem. But I don't believe throwing any more money at the local level is going to fix the state problem. I mean, tell me, how do you fix laws that are passed by the legislature? Well, you don't at the county level, you don't at the DA level. You do that at that level, and there is no answer for you other than we voted wrong. And when I say we, I mean in a collective as the voters overall.
If the measure passes and funds are raised, would that free up general fund money for other purposes?
Yes.
Does anyone else want to answer that? And a lot more details?
That's outside my bailiwick. I've been concentrating solely on my office. That's gonna be a commissioner question, I think.
So in the explanatory statement of the ballot itself, the one that's actually be in the pamphlet, the way it's phrased in there is that this money is actually dedicated to the jail and the DA's office. It will go in its own separate line item in the budget. It can't be spent for anything else in there, anything in the levy, the way it's worded in there by law has to be spent on that. So it is dedicated. However, yes, it will, the way it's put in there, it will relieve some pressure from the general fund. So because this money is spent on the jail and the DA's office, less money now will be coming out of the general fund. So yes, it'll free up some money from general fund to help with other services.
Okay, I don't understand this question, but Commissioner Sweet, hopefully you will. How is the budget projection for county considering small landowners who now expect a 20% reduction of revenue due to the private forest accord? Will the county have to direct funding for forest road improvements?
Okay, the question pertains to a new forest management regimen passed by the state called the Private Forest Accord. The governor put together a team of largely large forest landowners to come up with a new management scheme that widened the no harvest zone along certain rivers and streams, not certain, all rivers and streams. Limited harvest in other ways. It did reduce the harvest. Unfortunately, the small timber landowners were not present at the table other than through retired former leader of the Small Timberlands Association, and he wasn't able to tell his constituents what was going on apparently. So yes, it does impact some of our small timber landowners. I'm afraid that is something the county is not able to correct or compensate the small landowners for. Our hands are pretty well tied in that regard. So I don't know if quite the question was. I explained what the issue was, but I think if the question was, is the county going to pay these people back for lost harvest revenues? The answer is unfortunately no.
Yeah, but let me just finish this. The second part of the question was, will the county have to direct funding for forest road improvements?
No, we will not. The forest owners have their own private roads. We have our county road system. Much of it goes into the forest and through forest land. Our road repair and maintenance is fully funded by gas tax funding. We don't then depend on any of our property tax money for funding the road. This comes at a cost. One time, I think we had over 100 people in the road department. More recently, it was 59. Today, it's 29. So we have made reductions, and yes, we have potholes, but I don't know of anyone that can't get home at night.
And yes, you may answer that question.
I want to thank the commissioner for pointing out that it was the state legislature who passed laws to keep us from being able to manage our forests properly. I mean, you look at the Elliott Forest, we used to have 400 jobs on the Elliott Forest. It used to be a working forest. There are plans up there that you can have conservation, you can have a recreational forest, and you can have timber harvest that would benefit Douglas and Coos County, but those are going to waste, they're going to burn, and this is not not something if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. And it's happened in the past several times over the last 100 years, that forest has burned and we've got revenue up there that we could be using. But who is stopping us? Not the county, not the commissioners, the state.
Sheriff Fabrizio, I believe you answered this question, but I'm going to ask it again anyway. Will there be any impact on the sheriff's department patrol staffing if the measure doesn't pass?
Yes, potentially, really depending on the final number. We don't have a final number of what the budget cuts will look like, but I believe so.
Okay, thank you. In deciding how to allocate funding if the measure passes, was consideration given to funding alternatives to incarceration? I'm not sure who wants to answer that question. Maybe nobody wants to answer that question.
Well, I'll take a stab at it. We looked at it from this standpoint. One of the things I want to do again is I had a condition that I call a conditional discharge program, which was people that were caught in small quantities, user quantities drugs, not drug dealers, people possessing large quantities of drugs, but people that were caught with user quantities. We would offer them, okay, what we'd like you to do, plead guilty. We're going to put you on 18 months probation. You're not going to go to jail. And then what happens is, if you successfully complete drug treatment, the case gets dismissed. Everyone can kill that. Now I'm going to start it back up once we get to the point that we can charge these cases. The changes don't go into effect until September 1. But that's what I want to do is, from my perspective as the district attorney, if there is a reasonable treatment program we can get some of these people into, it would be great. Now, the slap on the wrist business, okay? It's technically, it comes out to be what we would call a lead misdemeanor. There's 180 days of jail in federal. Now, if the person comes in and completes the program, fine, great, wonderful. If the person comes in and says, no, I don't want to do it, and we get people that don't want to do it, I want to continue using my drugs, then I've got 180 days that I can use. Because well, we did look at alternatives to incarceration, but I need the people. I need the people in order to get back to what we were doing.
If the measure does pass, how long will it be before the county sees a change in jail capacity? And I know you answered that, but you can do it again.
Depending on availability of deputies, the best measuring stick I have is the 16 deputies we've hired over the last 15 months. I need 7 to open the jail and then a 13-week train-up period.
Could I use part of his time to answer the previous
You
question?
can have it.
Okay, I'll go real
Have a
quickly.
minute.
You asked about, how badly do we need the jail? I'm going to talk about, I've been hanging around the sheriff's office quite a bit lately. About a month ago, he and I were sitting in the coffee shop with a lady who had volunteered to help us publicize this. Partway through the conversation, he said, oops, I gotta go. He'd had a homicide out in Charleston to go to that. A week ago, I walked into the sheriff's office. That gentleman sitting right back there said, come on in the back room, John, I want to show you something. There was a table, probably 3.5 feet wide by 10 feet long, absolutely covered with weaponry that scared the daylights out of me. It was machine guns, big shotguns, vests, body armor, all kinds of weapons there. It was nasty. And sitting over in the corner was another pile of stuff. I said, what's that? Well, that's the business this guy and his wife were in. What do you mean? Child pornography. Who is the star? Their 10-year-old daughter. Earlier this week, I walked in the sheriff's office. Our synth officer, one person we can afford to be South Coast Interagency Narcotics. It's a one-man show. He is a great guy. He was filling out a form, or a report. I said, what's that about? It's a child abuse case. And he said, can you talk about it? Barely. And I think I understood him to say, we found this boy, and his parents had put staples in his cheek, and his arms were bound together with zip ties. He was 2 years old. You're darn right, so we need jail capacity.
Why can't the county, this is probably you, Commissioner Sweeney. Why can't the county reallocate funds from, say, the Coos Health and Wellness budget for public safety?
Good question, very good question. Total county budget is $140 million. One would think out of $140 million, we could find $5 million to fund the jail and an adequate prosecution staff. Our only contribution in taxes, $140 million, is $6.5 million a year. So we got our hands full just, that's a big gap. The reason we can't, most of that difference between the 6.5 million and 140 million is that a large part of what counties do, what all counties do, they deliver services that are paid for by the federal or state governments. Examples of that are two. Within the state collects gas tax money, and they take that, and then they give part of that back to the counties. That's all we use to support our roads with. By law, we cannot divert that money away from road maintenance, and thank goodness, because, that's what it's for. Same thing with public health and mental health. We receive our public health, Coos Health and Wellness department is fully funded by Medicaid money from the federal government. Mike would know this better than I am, probably off here a little bit. That money can't be put to any other use. It has to go to help with mental health, the counseling, and the physical health for people who don't have the insurance or otherwise can't afford their health care.
Thank you all. That is all of the questions, and I thank all of the panelists for their participation, and I thank all of you for your questions. We are going to take a short break now, but let us thank the panelists.